What's up, everybody? Day two of the campaign. We're off to a fantastic start, approaching 5,000 backers, $300,000. That's crazy sauce. Super excited. Oh, somebody in the Discord asked about my shirts. Today I've got Science is Magic That's Real. There you go. I do have a lot of Halloween shirts. I do enjoy me some Halloween, so get ready for that if you care. Okay, let's dive right in today. I'm glad everybody enjoyed the video from yesterday. I'm glad that you're okay to come along. And I know I'm asking you to spend a few minutes of your time watching a video, or at least listening, because you don't necessarily need to watch it unless I'm showing you something. But it allows me to be able to explain things with context and with inflection. And I think those two things are important when it comes to why you get the answers. So a lot of times when you hear no, all people hear is no, they don't hear why. And I've always been the kind of person who cares about the why behind anything. So that's why it's important to me to do it this way. But I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. I do want to give a shout out to the Discord community. That's a great community. If you like having deeper discussions about things or playing our games on TTS, hop over into the Discord, join in. It's a cool community that you can keep the conversation going, and it's easier to track than that pitiful comment software that is a part of Kickstarter. It's pitiful. Let me turn that down so you don't have to hear that ding every once. Somebody's like, hey, I keep thinking my whatever messenger's going off during your videos. Sorry. All right, so let's talk about a few things today that are heavy in the comments as well. A lot of people have asked for a playmat to replace the game board. So I want to talk about why we didn't do that. Because at the end of the day, we like add-ons. We make them. That way, if we think. Here's the problem with add-ons. I'm going to split this off for a second. We still need minimum orders. So we can't just make everything, because if it's not popular enough to say, let's hit at least 1,000 units, then that's kind of how many we have to order as a minimum, right? So if, let's just say, people really say they want the game board replacement playmat, and we have to order 1,000 of those, but only 250 people order it. That means I've got 750 playmats sitting in a warehouse that I paid for, and now I'm paying for storage. And maybe I can sell them in the future, but maybe not, right? So that's part of the problem with specific add-ons, and why most companies keep it pretty tight on what they're offering. Now, on Tidal Blades 2, we had a bunch of add-ons, and on here we have a bunch of add-ons because the game's a bit more popular, so you can assume that you're going to get close enough to a minimum order of, say, like 1,000 units to be able to justify it. So that's that part. And that's why you don't see every add-on known to man that you could possibly think of, because there are some minimums that we have to consider. Now, the problem with playmats, and I've touched on this before, but I just want to reinforce it, is the shipping. Shipping for playmats is real expensive because they always hit dimensional weight, because none of y'all want those folded up in a box. I've gotten playmats folded up in a box. They get creased. I understand. But because we can't fold them up and put them in a box, you want them rolled. You only want them rolled up and shipped to you rolled up. They hit dimensional weight because they're oddly shaped. And so even though it doesn't weigh that much, they ship it at a higher rate like it does, because of the space and the odd space that it takes up in airplanes and trucks and yada yada. I didn't make these rules. This is just what they do to us. So, as you guys know, the game board is quite large. So it would be a very large playmat. And if we designed it, we'd love to be able to design it in a way where you had space, like a dedicated space for like putting the ally cards and the ally chips and stuff like that, because it just makes setup easier and cooler and yada yada. But that would be really big. It'd be heavy. It'd be big. And I don't know. I'm just shooting from the hip. I've made playmats. I've made big ones. We made a really pretty big one for Valor and Villainy 2 that's double-sided. I can't wait to get that, by the way. But we're looking at probably a $40 to $45 playmat. So it's not a cheap playmat, right? Like you can buy other games for $40. So the playmat cost is probably going to be in that range, right? Then it's probably going to cost that much to ship it. So you're looking at, let's just say conservatively, on the low end, $75, but maybe even all the way up to $100, 90 to $100. I have a hard time believing that there's 1,000 of you who want a, let's just say on average, $85 playmat. I just find that hard to believe. So that's essentially why we haven't offered it. Okay. And I want to explain these reasons so that you understand. And unfortunately, like Kickstarter doesn't allow us to like put an add-on in the system that has a minimum number, and if it hits, then it gets made. Like that'd be really cool. It'd be like a Kickstarter within a Kickstarter. But that's the challenges that any, not just me, not just for this, any creator is up against adding anything to a game, whether it be an add-on or a new pledge or whatever. Like we have all of these swirling variables in our head that we are trying our best to navigate. Because at the end of the day, we want to give you what you want. We want to make the games hit the level that player experience that we all want, and we want to make money. So all of those things factor in. And the more items we add to our manifest, that's more ocean freight. That's more pick and pack fees. That's more shipping, more logistics fees. It just adds. So there's the rationale. If you guys want to start a, rally the troops, I guess, in the comment section to find 1,000 people that want an $85 playmat, I guess knock yourselves out. Let me know how that goes. All right, item number 2. Let's talk about some base rings. So we have heard the cries. We have heard you, and we are listening. I have had an initial conversation with my manufacturer last night, and we talked about the base rings for the miniatures. And there's a couple challenges, but I think we can get around them. And essentially, here's what it looks like. We would be able to offer, and again, this is all speculative and ballparky at the moment. I'd have to have some files made. We got to get some more, like a bit more deeper into the conversation. But it looks like for somewhere in the range of $12 to $15, we would be able to make rings for all 5 faction colors that have somewhere in the 4 to 5 ring range. And I think that's going to be plenty for any typical game. I think there are some outlier type games where maybe somebody's playing Alice and they really like lean into the befriend, and they're like really pulling in tons of Wonderlandians that 4 to 5 ring setup wouldn't cover. But I think for the most normal situation, maybe we just give Alice an extra ring because she tends to get a few more Wonderlandians than everybody else. But I think that would cover 98% of games. There's a couple of reasons. I don't want to make more rings than we have to because that makes the price go up. I don't want to make more plastic things than we have to because I just care about the earth, and I'd rather not make something that is just sitting in a bag and not being used if we don't need it. So I want to get the right amount, and we would do some more testing on this to be sure. But I think in the case that every leader has a ring, and then you have, because the other thing is like there's 2 different base sizes, but there's only 3 Wonderlandians that are Wonderlandians that aren't leaders at the bigger base size, right? So 1 for everybody should be plenty. Is there the chance that you could get 2 of those? Sure. Is there a chance that you get all 3 of them? Sure. All of those combinations are out there, but we have to be practical. We can't just give you, we can't give each faction 13 rings so that if you got every Wonderlandian in the box, that you'd be covered. There's 10 Wonderlandians that are available that aren't leaders in the deck of cards outside of that. And it, I don't think in most cases there's only going to be one person who just gets the majority of those that come up in a game. More than likely, I think the most I've ever played with was 4. I had 4 Wonderlandians at once with Alice. So I think 4 to 5 is probably the most. So if we're giving you 4 to 5 rings, I think that's going to cover 98% of games. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I've got some more conversations to have in the next day or two, but I hope to be able to kind of solidify this, get you some. There's not really that much you need to look at as far as like what a ring does, and it's going to be in the faction color. It's probably going to be a little bit of a softer plastic, so it fits and comes on and off of the rings easily. Again, these are like conversations that I've got to lock in with the manufacturer. Obviously there's some mold costs that we got to consider and yada yada yada, but I feel pretty safe saying that I think we're going to be able to offer you these base rings at somewhere in that $12 to $15 range. I hope it's 12. I hope I can get it down to 10, whatever it needs to be. But yeah, that's kind of the deal with the base rings. So we heard you. We're trying to, and this is one too. Like we really need 1,000 of those for that to make sense. Luckily, like in comparison to the playmat conversation on an item that's more expensive to make, my risk is less on a lesser expensive item. So I feel okay saying, even if we only sell 200 of these, if I have to order 1,000, I'll just stock in my web store the other 800 and, might sell base rings for the rest of my life. Because I do want to give you some things that you want. Right? We are listening. I do want to help there. I've talked to them also about the overlays. I'm not sure about that. That one's way more complicated. Every time we talk about a solution, it has hurdles. The overlays, they really do just present quite a few hurdles to overcome in manufacturing. And they're not going to be cheap, even if we can find a solution there. And then you still got the whole, like, where do you store them? So there's that. I did see that there was a lot of momentum in the comments about just using a dice, because people are saying the most often bumped item is the leader strength. And so people were saying, I use a dice, a D6, and then whatever the leader strength is, you just turn it. Would we be interested in just some Wonderland's War faction colored dice that have, instead of pips, I think the it'd almost be like a turn down for Magic, but it would just be a D6 that's stylized in each of the faction colors, and maybe we got some cool swirl effects or sparkles. Like, we can make the dice super fancy and cool, but that could be something that we could do that might be a nice compromise, right? Like, the player boards work fine, but we just want to make sure this one thing that typically is the most problematic for some people. Again, guys, I've played hundreds of games of Wonderland's War through development and everything, and it's never been a big issue for me. So that's why, I'm listening to you on this. These are solutions I'm trying to find for you, because I didn't have these problems. And even if something got bumped, I always just check my cards. I can always check my cards that I've drafted in the Tea Party and see what my leader strength was. Like, oh, this card had it, this card had it, this card had it. I'm at 3. But, go off, as the kids say. I'm happy to look at these solutions for you as long as they make financial sense. And last on today, like, today's going to be much shorter. I say much shorter. I've still talked for 15 minutes. Shipping. So I am still working on solutions for shipping, because end of the day, I know that is one of the biggest hurdles that's holding a lot of folks back from backing, and I want to reduce that as much as possible. So I've went out, I've got several meetings with other fulfillment partners. I've worked with QML for so long. They are an incredible partner, even on the hiccups they've had in the last 2 years that the pandemic has thrown at all of us. I think they've done as best that they could. I think we can all critique everything and everybody, and I definitely think that they haven't been perfect, but none of us are perfect. But they've always done right? Like, they're not malicious, and I don't think they're negligible, and they've been good partners. and they've helped me out in so many ways. But at the end of the day, I need to run everything through everything. And so I'm just checking with a couple other fulfillment partners to see if we can find better rates. But it's not just about rates. It's about how the system works and how it plugs into my system and Pledge Manager, and how we work internationally and what they offer there, and how they mix in with the ocean freight and the ports. It's the most complicated part of all of this. So it's not just going getting a quote from somebody else and going, oh shoot, there's a $3 per shipment cheaper, so we're good. It's more complicated than that. So, but just know that I'm not going out without swinging. I'm going down swinging, as they say. And the other great thing about the way that since we charge shipping in the Pledge Manager, it gives us this time that we can still adjust those rates if we find better solutions. Obviously, I'm really fighting for Canadian folks, trying to help you guys get a better rate, because I know that $25 on the expansion is obviously cost prohibitive. I did see where Matt Melendez was talking about, he handles things for Colossal and Brotherwise and Matago, and he was showing a shipping rate of just shipping a single replacement card into Canada. It was like $22, $23. So I mean, there's, Canada, y'all got some shipping issues up there. Like, it ain't us, right? Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I don't know the solution. If I did, we'd be all in better. So anyway, just know I'm still working on this. I'm going to keep you updated. If this pans out, obviously we'll update the campaign. We'll make a big deal about it. We'll try to let everybody know. It's unfortunate because if a solution is found, there's going to be people that came to the campaign, saw that, and they went away, and they're not going to come back. But as they say, c'est la vie. It is what it is. But I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep trying to find the best solutions. Because at the end of the day, I think we all just want the stuff that we want. We want it, and with our money, especially with the way inflation and things are going right now, it's a tough time. I know I'm feeling the squeeze here. My rent went up 20% over the summer here in Southern California. As you can imagine, Southern California rent was already not cheap. But we love it here. We do. We love it. So don't really want to move. Last thing I'm going to talk about is just the roller coaster of emotions that a content creator goes through. And I'm not looking for your pity, but I do want to just make it clear, what creators go through. Have you ever had, I'm sure you have, I'm sure we all have, maybe you haven't. Have you ever had an argument on Facebook or social media or whatever, and somebody says something really ugly towards you, and you spend a lot of the rest of that day or the next hour, whatever the amount of time is, rehashing that in your head, and it kind of affects you in other ways, that sort of thing? Maybe not. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just a certain percentage of folks that have this sort of issue. But I want you to take that example and then times it by 500 or 200. So we launch a campaign. We're super excited. We're like, oh my God, we've been pouring into these campaigns for months, years, whatever. We're ready to hit that button. We hit the button, and you're instantly filled with a comment section of 200 comments of people saying, here's everything I don't like. I don't like this. I don't like this. I got people telling me this shipping's highway robbery. You're trying to cash in on hype. Like, it ranges from complaints all the way up to personal attacks, right? Like in that spectrum's pretty wide. But it's because of the volume. It's the volume of that all at once. It really makes you, I don't know. It just, for me, I can't speak for everybody. For me, it fills me with a sense of dread. to have that many things tell you that you don't know what you're doing, or you're doing it wrong, it's hard not to believe it. Now, the other side of that is there's, 4,000, 5,000 people that are backing, and, out of those 5,000, we've only got 300 or 400 complaining about things. That means there's 4,000 other people that are happy, or at least not complaining, or content. But those people aren't saying anything, so it's all you hear is the negative. And all of that negative all at once is just dread. Like last night, I just was full of dread. Like, you just go through everything that could be going wrong, and you get imposter syndrome. Like, I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. This is, maybe they're right. Maybe I should just stop doing these things because it's, I can't make them happy. And then what if this ends up in the red, and I make a bad choice, or I add something that I shouldn't have added, and the project goes in the red and I lose money. So I put all this work in here, and my family's financial future is at risk. And you start spiraling. And I don't really say this because, the people who are going to come into the comments and say, James, this is awesome, don't worry about it, forget them. Obviously, you aren't the people already saying those things. So, as much as I appreciate the positive comments, that's not changing anything. It's more than just me telling you the situation, right? Like, I'm not really looking for pity. I'm not really looking for your comments to combat this. I've seen several of you in the comments, trying to defend things, and I really do appreciate that. People going to bat for creators is really helpful. It really, really is. So I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing that. It's mostly just an awareness thing. It's tough, and maybe someone who is pretty harsh or hostile with their comments is watching this, and maybe this conversation gives them a perspective that they hadn't thought about. Maybe they just pull their hostility down a little bit and approach their comments from more of a question, less of an accusation. Man, if anything you take away from this portion of the conversation is less accusations, more questions. I will answer questions all the live long day. No problem. Even if they're very entitled questions or very demanding questions. But when there's a lot of hostility mixed in with your question, it just instantly, I don't want to answer it. Instantly, I don't want to engage with you. I don't want to engage with you. It's not that I don't want to answer the question. I don't want to engage with a person who comes at me out the gate hostile on something that I've worked on for months and years and I'm very proud of. And I think that's probably most creators, but we have to put on our customer service face and go, but I don't always, because I'm not perfect. I'm human. And there are definitely times when I've just fired customers. If somebody continues to be hostile and they're just overly negative, I don't want that person as a customer. So I refund them and just remove them from the campaign. And I don't, I haven't done that on Wonderlands War. And it's few and far between. But just hear this. Maybe you don't think you're being hostile. But if people in the comments are like, whoa, my friend, pump the brakes. You're coming in hot. Maybe instead of just disregarding what they're saying, go, they wouldn't say this if they didn't think I was being hostile. Maybe I'm more hostile and more negative than I think. Self-awareness is a thing. We all got to have it. We all should have it. But I wish that was a subject they taught more in even elementary school and high school. Like there was more knowledge around being self-aware. I know I was not very self-aware on lots of things for a very long time and still not. Like I try to be open to am I wrong in this situation? Am I, what's the meme? Am I the baddie? Anyway, if one person gets something from this conversation, great. I just mostly wanted to share the roller coaster of emotion that a creator goes through, and there are very big highs and very low lows, and You know, sometimes we just literally have to step away from the computer and just take a break and take a walk. So that's it for today. You know, we've got some other cool surprises. We'll get there, but those are things I was able to tackle after day one and hearing what you want. I'm probably not going to be able to tackle every single thing everybody wants. That's just, and there are some things I'll say no to, just because if I let the scale of things expand too much, then that delays the project getting to you. And if there's anything I've learned, is that if you're late, people hold that against you for a very long time. They don't care if you added a bunch of stuff during the campaign that had to have development and had to be, you know, designed and things, and it pushes back your timeline. They only care about, did you hit your delivery date or not? And I just like one more little mini rant, now that I'm almost at 30 minutes, is that when creators put that in Kickstarter, it is just an estimate. It's not a hard deadline. It is just an estimate of when we think we can get everything done. But there's a lot to do on projects, and there's a lot of variables along the way. And if any one of those variables has a hiccup, it delays that timeline. And typically it's a domino effect, because if this portion here, or on my little timeline, if we're here, this has a hiccup, it affects these pieces down the line. And then like these pieces over here can't go into effect until this one's finished. And so until this one's finished, nothing else moves. And that's not always the case, but it happens quite a bit. So, all right, y'all, that's it. Appreciate you. Day 2 in the books. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you hasta mañana.